All right, everybody, welcome to the Just for Friends Trying to Figure Out HR podcast. It's my turn to introduce folks. So I'm the Big Llama. Thank you guys for joining us. Joined by Jake from HR, Dr. Green. And if you are a regular listener, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to notice that the part of Mama Mel is being played by another character or another person. So if you're watching this, you're shocked. We did not replace Mama Mel. Okay, we just brought on a special guest in her stead. Um,
No one can replace Mama Mel.
exactly.
It's all about Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. That's how I feel right now.
Well, I wanted to be extra sensitive to Mama Mel, who has been our sole voice of reason on this show.
Meh, eh, eh.
Our voice of reason. She keeps us in line. But no, we have a special guest. We have Irma, the HR lady, who will be joining us. Irma, do you want to give a small intro or anything, or tell us, or we just want to get into the business?
I'm really excited when you all invited me to be a guest today about the topic we're going to talk about. Right? I think I'm going to be roasted only because I've been in HR for over 25, 30 years and in a senior leadership type of role. And yeah, my history with the four friends here, I feel I'm going to be roasted, but hey, it's all good. I love it. Love it.
Listen, just so everyone who's listening, you just heard probably the most professional intro that we've heard on the show, and we appreciate it. But it's not a roast. It's not a roast. But we are talking about toxic leaders, and more importantly, why, as HR folks, do we allow that type of behavior to continue? Like, that's the one thing that people often ask us in HR is like, you have these toxic work environments, these toxic leaders, they are who they are, but for some reason we become ineffective. And so we want to talk sort of through that and just talk through that scenario, because it's easy to sort of point the finger and go, yeah, that's bad, that's toxic. It's harder to do something about it. So that's our topic tonight. And again, we're glad to have you, Irma. We appreciate you being here, filling in for Mel. And honestly, full disclosure, obviously, we at some point have worked for Irma, so this is an honor to have her on here. But at the same time, we're not gonna pull any punches. All right, Irma.
No,
You no longer
no.
hold the control.
Guys, no. I'm seeing this is basically group therapy, right?
It
But with
totally
fewer,
is.
but with fewer NDAs, so that's good. That's good. I
That's
love
right.
Yeah. No, and this is exactly what you said. It's our way of kind of coping through the scenarios we've been through and talking through HR. So I'm excited again to have you here, and I'm sure all of us are
Thank you,
ready
guys.
for another great episode.
Awesome.
All right, PhD, take it away, sir.
Every episode.
The streak has to continue. The
It
PhD
does.
must always be talked about per episode. This is episode 16.
16.
16 references to the PhD.
Well, thank you. Before I get into this, I know we talked about just like even entitled toxic leadership, but go deeper and further into what HR does in the background. You don't know that we've had 6 conversations with this leader. You don't know that we've fought for you, or we've done this or that. There's a lot of things you don't see in the background. That is on purpose that you don't see it. Our job is to make sure you don't see those things so that you actually have someone who's truly advocating. So in that case, I want to make sure I say that, but story time. So the legend of Chad Thunderboss. And no relation to me, I swear.
Chad Thunderboss.
Yes, Thunderboss.
Oh, Thunderbolts. Ah.
Once upon a spreadsheet, in the corporate jungle of Synergex Solutions, there ruled a man, and his name was Chad Thunderboss, and he was the vice president of operations and a full-time tyrant. Chad was the kind of leader who believed micromanagement is just caring too much, and that burnout was a sign of team passion. Did you know he has a catchphrase? If you're not crying, are you even committed? Each morning, Chad would burst into the office wearing $600 loafers and emotional unavailability, screaming, "Let's crush Q3 or I'll crush your will to live." His Zoom calls were 2-hour marathons of gaslighting, word salad, and inspirational quotes stolen from a protein powder label. Also, on Monday, he made his intern, Becky, rewrite an email 37 times because he didn't like the vibe of her semicolons.
Oh, yep.
The legitimacy of who this guy is, guy or gal, is so triggering that
Right.
it's like as you're reading that, like you think
You're picturing it.
no.
You're picturing it.
I have a person's image already etched in there, but it's not. It's real. So again, for those of you listening that are like young to HR, this shit is real. Like there
It
is a
is.
legit guy who walks in and talks about let's crush the third quarter. PTO is not man. Like there's that guy who just does all of these toxic things, and again, it's
No,
not just us being.
you're so right. It's same here. The experience with that profile is more of even using the, you know, if you use an exclamation point wrong, you're going to have to call EAP because you're going to feel like you're not, everything that you're doing is so wrong, you know?
Yeah.
So, I get it. I get it. Yeah.
The grammar police. He's
The
hunting
grammar,
me down.
yes. Yes.
So, what was the breaking point? During a team retreat called Crush or Be Crushed, Mountain Edition, Chad made everyone do burpees at 5 a.m. and read Sun Tzu's Art of War and roleplay harassment techniques with a bear. However, the bear filed a complaint. Just saying. So now,
Hold
go
on,
ahead.
Why a bear?
And it's
I guess
it's
it could be a
Sun,
lion or a tiger.
it's
Oh
Sun
my.
Tzu's Art of War. Not that I've read it or had the audio book or follow its mantra, but I feel attacked. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I didn't even know how to say it, so I was like, oh, hopefully I'll say this right. Now enter our favorite character, Jason from HR. Now y'all all heard I said Jason, not Jake from HR. Jason.
Jason. I've heard of
Mhm.
Jasons in HR. They are
Oh.
legends.
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 Yes.
Legends.
Legend of being terrible.
You said it, not me. Now, Jason wasn't new to corporate nonsense or shenanigans. He'd handled everything from interdepartmental Nerf wars to someone using the office printer for cryptic fantasy fan fiction. But Chad was a different flavor of disaster. Like as if Gordon Ramsay had a baby with a TED Talk and raised it on Red Bull and toxic masculinity. Funny enough, though, Jason pulled up his file and it was thick. I mean, like big booty thick.
Like Megan the Stallion thick. That's what
Yes.
Okay.
Past complaints range from emotionally weaponized PowerPoints to referring to layoffs as professional exfoliation or using a magic 8-ball to guide operational decisions. This is the kind of guy.
That sounds about right. I think I know a few people that fit that description.
Just flip the coin instead, right?
Yeah.
So
Every office has one. Every
office.
Every workplace has Chad.
So what's the dilemma? Chad brought in big revenue. He had an
Exactly.
influencer style LinkedIn following and a podcast called Lead Like a Lion. Eat Your
Ooh.
Week. So the C-suite team asked Jason from HR, should we coach him or just let it slide?
Ooh, the star complex.
Yes.
The
Yes.
Look,
star complex.
Irma from HR caught it. That's right.
Uh-huh.
I'm all that and a bag of chips.
Uh-huh.
So as Jason is over there sipping his third espresso and staring into the distance, thinking about where he's going to have lunch, he opened his mouth and he said, if we coach him, we risk emotional whiplash. If we let it slide, morale dies. If we promote him, we burn in HR hell. So after some soul searching, aka he was reading some employee reviews out loud with a glass of wine in his hand, Jason made his move.
So hold on.
Go ahead. No, you're good.
This is okay. So, like, real talk. If the guy is making a ton of money for the company, if he's a mover and a shaker, I'm not saying he's untouchable, but you better come ready. Like, you better have all your ammunition, all your bullet points, all your cases, because this guy will be. And I don't. Sometimes I feel like they don't consciously do it, like to say we're gonna hide this guy. He just makes they can't see past the revenue. They can't see past the dollars and go, this is our top earner. We got to take care of him, right? So they will overlook some of the complaints and issues and things because, or they'll move him to something that sounds like he will be better off or gets away from this one person who maybe doesn't like him. Like, they blame everybody else except him, and that's
Mhm.
it's such a true scenario that
It is.
it's hard. It's hard because, again, as a business, you're trying to balance making the money and doing the right things by the employees.
You're giving me PTSD over here. Like it's not been that long.
I think you know what? I think you're talking about the right thing and that you use the perfect word, the balance, right? I think balance is key because when you have that star complex that you're having to deal with, and you know that was one of my first leadership books that I read, and that was Winning by Jack Welch. Awesome book. And in that book, they really talk about, so for you all that are new into HR, that's a really good book, Winning by Jack Welch. That's going to really show you how CEOs, why this balance of protection for somebody that is considered a star that's bringing in all this money and they seem untouchable. It really walks you through why a company would be willing to, you know, offer that tolerance and discomfort for that person and balance that discomfort with having to protect the culture. And usually that's when HR comes into play because we're the ones that become that shield, that sponge that have to absorb it all and somehow make it okay for everybody.
Yep.
um and again, I think it's all about picking your battles, and with somebody like that, you're just going to have to be very strategic about how you're going to approach the discomfort and the bullshit that they're bringing to the business. So yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I think you got balance right on that big time.
So for this case here, Jason read a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. by Mark Manson. And I'll tell you why this is so important, because for the rest of the story, sorry, reference to Paul Harvey.
Episode 2.
Episode 2. So I tell you all this because now, how did HR solve the problem? Let it slide or make a clever move? If you're good in HR, you make clever moves. Just letting y'all know.
Yeah, you make clever moves. You make clever moves.
Yes. So he burst in a C-suite meeting the next morning like he had wrestled a badger and lost. His hair was askew, his tie was a suggestion, and he clutched a crumpled piece of paper like it held the secrets to the universe, or at least his sanity. All right, listen up, you corporate titans, Jason declared, tossing the paper onto the gleaming mahogany table with a dramatic flourish that sent a pen skittering. I've cracked it. We're going to coach him, but with a twist. We'll tell him it's for a leadership development program and that he's been handpicked for his unique potential.
Oh.
He punctuated the last phrase with air quotes so enthusiastically his fingers almost got dislocated. The C-suite team shared with a mix of concern and morbid fascination on their faces. The CEO, ever the pragmatist, raised an eyebrow, and the twist. Jason, what is the twist? The twist, my dear CEO, Jason said, is that the mentor will be from Holly from accounting. She terrifies everyone. If anyone can get this guy to shape up, it's Holly. She once made a grown man cry over a misplaced stapler.
Worse with the worst.
Worse with the worst. We'll tell him it's tough love for the modern executive. A ripple of uncomfortable chuckles went through the room. And if he doesn't improve, the head of marketing ventured, clearly picturing a corporate version of a horror movie. Jason's grin widened. A touch manic. Then we'll have irrefutable proof that even Holly from accounting couldn't fix him. At that point, we'll promote him to chief morale officer of a newly acquired struggling subsidiary in Siberia. The problem solved, morale potentially restored, and we'll blame it on synergy. He slapped the table, clearly pleased with his genius. Sometimes, he concluded, sweeping his arm dramatically, you just have to embrace the chaos and pray.
Bravo, Jason.
Jason sounds very
I
dramatic.
want him part of my team. That's all I know. Hey.
I'm gonna give y'all a quote, and it's from a TV show, a series called Working Moms, that's based out of Canada. God. There's a scene, and I think the quote that's in this scene fits that scenario, which is the only way to combat Mean Girl is with Mean Girl.
So go ahead, Big Llama.
Okay, so we talk about the realistic approach, right? And I know this is exactly what happens is that you will this guy is getting promoted. Like he's for bad behavior, he's getting promoted. Even though we're moving him around, he's still getting more titles, and it irritates the shit out of me. But I want a work environment where we can be honest with this guy. That's the type of HR world that I want to live in, and the type of environment I want to be in is that we can go and be like, dude, you're being an asshole. Like you're complete, like telling him straight up what are the, now again, I'm not saying that he has to be fired. What I'm saying is let's just be direct with people and be honest to say the things that you're doing are not pleasing us, right? Or you're killing the morale, or you're completely out of line. But it's not that you can't change, right? Let's work on that. But like dancing around him because he makes a lot of money for the company is the part that I hate about this whole thing. But I get it. You have to be strategic and clever in how we move them around. But I wish we can just be like, hey man, like have some tough love and be like, look, you are a complete asshole right now and you need to stop.
Yeah.
Right. And then let's talk about why you need to stop and what is the best thing to do. But like, it's
But
sending
I
people
just
to
think, but I just think the only time that's really, I think I agree with that, right? Because having him go with Holly, assigning him to Holly to help mentor and help, just because she'll probably make him cry. It's kind of like, just because you have two people that are seasoned professionals doesn't mean they belong in the same stew, right?
Ooh, I
No,
like
they don't.
that.
They
Ah.
don't. And what's good, I think what's going to happen is, because you're putting him under somebody that is going to be influencing him with by intimidation, really, and just more by power. I i think that what I agree with, it has to be total. Here are the cards on the table. And sometimes, how many times have we all been there where we just want to tell somebody, an employee or a leader, or your boss, stop being an asshole. you you're
Mm.
you're you're just being an asshole right now. Please stop. Like, park it before you come to work. um just being that transparent, and that's only going to work if you have the buy-in and the recognition and the acknowledgement from the higher up. Because if you don't have that, you being transparent with them is not going to work. And that's where Jason's idea comes into play. But again, you're only prolonging the agony that people are going to be going through, because now you're going to not only have accounting miserable as well.
Well, and you got to look at the worst case scenario. What if they end up dating and you get a power couple?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good thought.
Yeah.
Ah.
Like,
Yeah.
He picks
that
up things
company
from
is,
her. Yeah.
you just took two twin tornadoes and made a big hurricane.
Yep. Yep. Yeah,
Um,
I like the and at the end of the day, it's about, I think we need to start being more transparent with people, and just lay it all out. But I don't think corporate America is ready for that yet. No matter
no.
how much they want to say that, communication and yada yada, but they're not ready to really, hear the truth when somebody sucks, or when somebody's being an asshole, or when somebody's just like, you know what, yeah, you're not, this isn't for you, and that's okay. But you're the weak link, or you're the we're not there yet, as a business community at all. Mm-mm.
I think,
So have you? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Jake.
no, I was going to say, I think Irma hit the nail on the head, because I really think it depends on what your head count is at that company, on whether or not they could sustain that honesty and truth. Because I think once you start hitting like 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 employees, it just becomes so political, and what
Yep.
we preach just gets washed about
Yeah.
transparency, honesty, feedback. And even if we give it and it's taken, it's not used, not effectively.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. And no matter how transparent you are, um, even as I've had an experience where, uh, uh, you know, no matter what evidence you have on this individual, that, they were being, total ass, right? Totally unprofessional, not following the rules, just because they are who they are. Um, you'll know right away if your next tier, your next level is willing to look the other way, or just kind of like brush it off. That's your key to, where it's going to go. Because if that tier is not supporting it, most likely the tier above it isn't going to either. And so then you have to be creative. You know, sometimes what I would do as well, is I would use what most companies have as an avenue to report that type of behavior, and that's doing it, you know, through a global ethics hotline, right? Or some avenue where you know you're going to get it, you know, out there for people to understand and know that we have a problem that needs to be addressed. And sometimes as an HR professional, you know your limits and you have to maybe utilize those tools and resources that are there. But at least you're setting the foundation to show that, you know, if this company decides not to do anything with Chad, that audit is going to be there, and that's not going to be able to taken away, because those Chads can be, I'm telling you,
Well, I want
Straight
to
up
call out the ugly.
assholes.
Crawfish eating jackasses is what they are.
I think we got to call out the ugly truth, though. We got to call out the ugly truth, because I agree with you,
Yeah.
Irma. I think there needs to be a foundation of building that trail and documentation. But let's just be real here. If you're going to stay with that company and you expect to grow within that company and you start filing complaints, even though that's the right thing to do, in a very high percentage, I don't want to attach a number to it, you're committing career suicide.
Oh yeah, for sure,
yeah.
for sure,
Like,
for
don't,
sure.
don't expect to get promoted
Yeah.
anytime soon or even have a job.
Oh yeah,
within
you're
2
gonna
years.
go. Yeah, you're gonna go in. Yeah, and as hard as we say, oh, retaliation doesn't happen. Give me an effing break. It happens.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
happens.
It freaking happens. You know.
So I wanted to say that there's two things that I did, right, or that I do. One is, if you've ever seen the Key and Peele sketch, the Luther, the president's angry translator. Well, I would be the angry translator, and I would confide in either a counterpart or a leader that I trusted, and say, "Hey, listen," and give the honest truth, and then kind of feel it out. Like, what do they think? Are they going along for the ride? And that would give me the gauge of, okay, how hard do I push?
Mhm.
And I hate to say that, but that's kind of how I had to play the game a little bit, is just figure out what was acceptable, what wasn't. The other thing is too, is read the room. Read the fucking room. Like when
Mhm.
you mention something about this person, or you hear something mentioned and you see instant defense,
Mhm.
back off. Like, back off
Oh yeah.
immediately. Find a new strategy, because you're about to lose this fight. And I
Yep.
think as HR, and again, we want to we in this podcast, I think, want to preach like, hey, let's do things the right way. Let's talk about the way
Absolutely.
we want the world to look like. But at the same time, there are harsh realities that you have to understand the dynamics of the people in the room that you're talking to. If they're not picking up what you're putting out, you got to backtrack. um I don't know, it just, we that's the one thing I always realize: the person who is seen as a troublemaker, or seen as someone, is the person who doesn't know how to read that room. That's all. Or like,
Mhm.
you're in the right space, your intentions are good, you're doing right by the company, but you're literally shooting yourself in the foot, and you are removing yourself from any consideration of future development or whatever. Because, as Jake had said, like, it's kind of career suicide sometimes to report things, um and to say certain things. But you got to be able to just pick up on what people are putting out there, and that's all. And for me, again, I was a survival I was a survivalist. Like, I wanted to continue my employment, so I may have let things slide early in my career that I could have stood on the hill and fought, right? But I wanted to keep the job. I had a, wife and kids, and I realized that maybe being a little bit more um reserved is the best way to go. But
Mm.
I
now I'm not that way. I am going to be a little more vocal, but at the same time, don't I am still playing, like trying to make sure I don't, do anything stupid because I want to keep a job.
So what you're
Unfortunately.
saying is the little nugget or pro tip that you would give us is that we could walk softly but with a big stick.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, if you've done the legwork, again, in HR folks, if you've built in this trust and you've worked with people, they're going to hear you when you talk to them. And they're going to understand where you're coming from, and they'll start to trust your judgment, and it'll be easier to convince them. But if you don't have that, you gotta be careful.
So what happened to Chad? Anybody want to know what happened to Chad?
I feel like he got a promotion, a pay raise, and a transfer.
He now hosts webinars for all the interns titled How to Seem Busy 101. While Jason rebuilt the team with leaders who didn't weaponize wellness apps. So the moral of the story is if HR keeps letting it slide, eventually the slide turns into a cliff. And everyone goes down except Chad, who thinks gravity is for underachievers. Just saying. So
You only sink
handle the business.
You don't sink if you're a winner.
That's right.
I guess
You
not.
don't sink if you're a winner. The quicksand was not made for you.
And that fits their personality because they are full of helium.
Oh, straight up. Full of gas, apparently, which, helium.
All gas, no brakes.
All gas, no brakes. So that's our story about Chad. I wanted to see what you guys. I think y'all kind of hit a little bit of it. I think actually all three of y'all hit something on there. It was about the fact that we still have leaders we have to answer to. HR is not the end all, be all, do all, say all. That is not the way it works. And as my 5-year-old would say, that's not the way it works. And so, because when he wants to argue with me. So
I gotta you gotta warn me if you're gonna do a voice, man. I took a swig, I almost spit take all over my computer. What's wrong with you?
I wasn't even paying attention. I was thinking about what my child says. And so the way it works for us, there's always a hierarchy. We're either an HR of one or an HR team, or we have a ladder of HR people that we, have to answer up to. And if you are in any type of knowledge of what the levels of HR there are, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, there is HR assistant, HR specialist, or HR coordinator. Let's see. HR generalist, HR business partner / HR manager, HR director, executive HR director, vice president of HR, senior vice president of HR, and then, and then the last one being a chief human resources officer. So you have all those levels. We may be in that type of chain. So we're the middle, truly the middle man in this position, and we're trying to advise someone who is higher than us. Hey, this may not be a good idea. This is what could happen. So we are not the end all, be all, do all, say all, because we have other people we have to answer to. And even if we don't answer to that long chain, we still have to answer to the CEO. Ultimately, we have to answer to that person. So we do what we can as legally as possible, because
but I also think that's why it's so important that one of the biggest competencies that an HR professional can build is relationship building. Because if you have a strong relationship with your CHO, with your CEO, with your vice presidents, with your executive vice presidents, and you have that really good relationship, it's gonna, for those Chads that are out there, managing through a situation like that, you might not get the end result that you want, and that is, having him terminated or exiting him out. But it's gonna be so much easier to navigate and come up with solutions on how to handle that situation if you have that report rapport built already with those individuals, right? So that's why that's so critical. And then I love what you were saying about reading the room, because that's one of the things that you need to do as far as understanding the subtle, the hidden cues that give you a Chad, and people don't know how sometimes they forget to be able to recognize those cues, right? Like high expectations can mean intimidation, leading by intimidation, or always talking about putting the team out there, to committing the team to do something, executing on something. That right there is probably a leader that's a toxic leader that's going to be taking credit for your shit. And so you not only in reading the room, building the relationships that you have to build to get that backup to support you, but also understanding those subtle cues of, it's not high expectation. You're dealing with somebody that lavishes on intimidation. When you're getting pro tips all the time, when you're getting, you know, uh, uh,
Nuggets.
just a nugget, a golden nugget, or, hey, they redo your entire work for you. So yeah, so knowing how to look for those clues is also going to be able to help you to deal with those chads.
And if you're listening to the show and someone tries to take credit for your work or forgets to put your name on that assignment, you send Big Llama a message. He'll walk you through how to address it.
Oh, yes,
Absolutely.
he will.
Absolutely. I
He'll give
got
you
you.
some guidance. He'll give you them pro tips.
That's
So
right. I got you.
let's take a psychological moment. Let's use that PhD.
Okay, hold on. Let me get my crystals out then. Hold on, let me get my crystals out. You always need a crystal. So let's see, green fluoride. No, actually concentration is yeah, green fluoride. Okay, so here we go. Okay, let's go.
Okay. So y'all talked about traits and behaviors. Well, this is called manipulative behavior. The things that
Yes.
y'all described is what they're using. And manipulation can go from several things, from guilt to fear. And I've recently, not even just in the work world, in my personal life, I've had to tell somebody that, hey, look, I don't do the guilt tripping. Like, if you want to guilt trip somebody, I'm not the one. You can find somebody else to do that, because it's not going to be me. But then also there is coercion with control.
Mhm.
And so, oh, Big Llama, if you stay for 4 more hours, I'll give you a bonus of $100. And money can do a lot of things, but it can't do everything. And one thing it can't do is give you back time.
And Dr. Green, what's my response to that? What would be my response?
Hate has no home here.
No, I love that for you.
I love that.
I love that for you.
But then go further. There are things like micromanagement. These are also toxic traits that
Yes.
come with all this. Now, how many of y'all, this is my biggest one. This is like the one that just really burns my biscuits.
Mm-hmm.
Grinds those gears.
It grinds my gears. The lack of empathy.
Oh, yeah.
The leaders who have lacked empathy because, one, they don't have any for themselves or others. But let's say that Jake from HR, he has a very, very close a person that passed away. We'll say I passed away, and his boss goes, "Okay," and the lack of empathy is shocking, because as leaders, we should always go in with an open mind and, dare I say it, an open heart, because people have hearts. You just got to be willing to let them use it. And in this case, Jake will have to grieve for at least the next 2 months for my death. I mean, it's okay.
I have to get a tattoo in remembrance of you.
and pour out a 40 for my homie.
in the 2020.
Yeah. But
Boone's
no,
Farm, Boone's Farm, 2
Boone's-
for 5.
Boone's for you.
Strawberry
but
Hill,
no.
Strawberry Hill, the best, guys, the best. 2 for 5.
Look,
but
so Boone's Farm, if you want us to advertise for you, please feel free.
Ooh.
Give the Big Mama a call.
are they still around?
Yeah,
Yeah, they are.
yeah, they are.
As long as there are
Boone's
underage
Farm's
kids
ladies.
trying to drink, Boone's will be there.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Well, look, Dr. Green, to your comments, I think a big call out is trying to also, when you're being faced with all those traits of a toxic leader, you have to identify whether it's intentional or ignorance. Because I
Mhm.
know, and
Amen.
I'm just
Amen.
going to be honest. When I first got into leadership, when I was in operations, way before I even thought about HR, when I first had my first salary job, it's like 3 months in, and I had my entire team in the retail company I was with confront me, and they straight up told me, like, we're all walking out because you give no praise, you dictate, and it's just like you have no empathy for us. And honestly, I think that was the first time that I ever did a soul search into myself and like started doing true self-development and looking into educational development, because I didn't realize I was doing it. It's what I knew. It's what I've seen, it's what I repeated, it's how I knew to operate. So you have to identify, are they doing it intentionally, which is going to be very challenging for you to work with and fix, or is it ignorance where they really do need to have that conversation with someone to help develop them into a good manager, a good executive, a good, regardless of what their position is, because they could have gone 20 years with no one ever telling them that they're a narcissist. And this is the attributes that's portraying narcissistic characteristics that they never knew they portrayed. So when looking into all those attributes and traits that you're mentioning, Dr. Green, that's the one call out I have is, if you're on the other side of that boat, make sure you know whether or not they're steering it at you on purpose or they're driving blind because they don't know better.
But
Yep.
Go
Yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, let me say this too. Like, I have admitted myself, and I think Jake, you've said it. You just said it there. I've admitted that, like, in my youth, I was a total asshole. I think as a leader, I will admit that. I think because I didn't. Well, I could still be, sir. No, I'm just kidding. But I think I didn't have the empathy for people because I didn't go through the life experiences that they did.
Mhm.
I was very nice about it, but my mentality early on was company first. Like, the company has to do well. We're here for a reason. We're earning a paycheck. The company only owes you a check. Like, I was spouting out these asshole type things. But as I grew and I had good mentorship, that someone opened up and be like, dude, people are allowed to take vacation days. People are allowed to spend time with their families. Because at the time I was ruining my marriage by saying work first. Like, I had to come to a low point where my wife was like threatening to leave because I was at work all the time. And then as I had kids, and life happens. You develop that, oh my God, like, this is critical for someone, right? To take some time. Because when I had kids, I thought, oh yeah, I have going to my son's birthday party, or to his field trip, or seeing him at his award ceremony was huge for me. And then I thought back, holy shit, I was such a jerk when someone would ask me for PTO. So I mean, I think sometimes we don't intend to be that way. It's just it's a product of
The
the
job,
environment, the job, the corporate
the
environment, and it's
responsibility that you have when you get to a certain level.
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
the bad thing though is that corporate culture that you growing up in either accepts it and says this is the way to be successful, or doesn't course correct you. And that's I was in a toxic environment because they never course corrected me. They promoted everyone who spent god awful hours at that place. They weren't the greatest of people in terms of skill or attributes. They just spent the most time in the office showing that they are dedicated to the mission. And so that's who was being rewarded. So I fell in line as like, okay, you're staying till 8 o'clock at night. I will be here till 8 o'clock at night too. You know, I'm vindictive. I'm going to be here till 9:30, so I can tell my boss the next morning I was here till 9:30. You left at 8. So it like that was the reward system, was you get promotions and money, which
Yeah.
is bad. Which is bad. Like you have to promote this you know, like again, life happens. So now if you talk to me now, if I were to talk to my guy, me back then, I would have fired him.
Oh, I'd have punched you in the face.
I would have punched him in the face. But now I tell people, you're allowed to have time, you're allowed to have life outside of this place, because guess what, after 20 years, and I always say the story, but after 20 years of being that guy, oh, they handed me my package and said, have a nice day.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your time. And that showed me exactly where I stood and why all that time was wasted. So I have a lot of regrets. I have a lot of pent up, you know, I probably need to go to therapy, but
Yeah.
that's
I'll
why
see you in my office next week.
that's why I'm talking to you, PhD. No, but honestly, I can see it. Like I was a product of that. And that's again, the HR people who were my HR support at the time, they were just in lockstep with that leader. So they allowed the toxicity to happen, and I just kind of fell in line. But I had to learn my lesson the hard way in the school of hard knocks. After 20 plus
Yeah.
years, they showed me the door, and I had to
Yeah.
find my career all over again.
Everybody will.
Mhm.
No one is indispensable. I can tell you that in corporate America. But I think when you're talking about a toxic leader, I think those are the two most um, right away that's going to be telling of that leadership style. If that person is going to be toxic, is trust. Does that person display trust, or are they showing empathy? And for me, I think those two, trust and empathy is like leadership currency, right? Once it's gone, it's spent. You're going to lose an employee. And what you all just shared is, at one point in time, I can't say that I ever was there. As far as like what you guys described, but um in order to come back from something like that, you all described it, you're going to have to rebrand yourself. You're going to have to go in and be take a good look in the mirror and be honest with yourself, to say, you know what, I am the asshole. I am, the jerk that I don't want to work for me. I would hate to work for me. And once you're able to do that, and you can recognize, and then everybody, what I heard, got a coach, right? I got a professional coach as well, when I worked with somebody that, in my opinion, I would say was toxic. But I will tell you that the best lesson that I got, this person was an engineer by trade and then went into HR. So for him, everything was about, a data. And I better not even go in and give them the menu for the week of what the cafe, the on-site cafe, was going to be having, because I would have to show them, a dashboard that said what was the highest consumed item of the week, what was times of when the cafe was being used. And maybe I'm exaggerating on that, but obviously that was the type of environment that, that I was having to deal with, where I would even check his calendar just
Ooh.
to see if he was going to be in or out, or what meetings he was going to be in, because that was going to be my, oh God, yes, I don't have to deal with him. But I also, so I really never had problems with the whole trusting and being empathetic. And again, I hope that you guys feel that way, because obviously you guys worked with me. Um, but I think it was more for me. What the one thing I did learn was to, instead of seeing it as that person is toxic, that person is being an asshole, that person, I always try to, I learned from a coach, because I took a professional coach to get me through that situation, because in reality, I came to the point where I either I'm going to leave that company, two, I'm going to transfer out of that position, or because he's not going anywhere. So I need to do something for me. And so I got myself a professional coach. And it's through that I learned, instead of focusing so much on the toxic habits that you are putting in your mind that are toxic, what are the good points that you can get from this person? And it's because of that leader that I learned data, that I wasn't thinking HR and data, and I got really good in understanding data, using spreadsheets, work Excels, macros, and building stuff, and up. And I don't think I would have ever gone there if I wouldn't have looked at that situation in that regard, instead of looking at as stayed stuck in the mentality of, oh, it's toxic, he's a toxic person. So and to this day, we're great collaborators, which I love, because we stayed connected. And that's what grew out of that toxic relationship for me. So I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
So for that's a wonderful, not just a story, but a wonderful way to deal with that. Number one, I always encourage, just because I am who I am, I always encourage therapy. Getting a
Definitely.
coach, getting a mentor to help you get through these things, because corporate America is not as easy as it was.
No.
It gets worse and worse. Not in a bad way. It gets worse and worse on things that change, because changes, let alone in HR, are changing in a snap. You've got
And your coworker, Dr. Green, is not your therapist. That is
Yes.
misery likes company.
Yes.
And everybody does that. And I agree. Get a real therapist like Dr. Green. Look him up on LinkedIn. He does sessions.
He has a PhD.
PhD. He'll walk you off the ledge.
That's probably really true. But yes, I agree. Having that mentor, having that therapist, having that coach. I love coaches. It is a very, very needed thing for anyone in corporate America, because it is very stressful. But I also think about other toxic traits, and somebody said it too. Am I the asshole?
Yep.
Jake from HR. Sorry,
Jake from HR.
I didn't ask if I was. I knew I was.
Oh, no.
Right.
I'm just,
He looked in the mirror and he remembers, oh, I'm the asshole. I'm the problem. Okay, I get it.
But that's correct. If you can somehow, in whatever way you can do it, let the person who is toxic go, am I the asshole? I applaud you, because that takes skill in order to get your own boss to think, am I the asshole, or is it them? Because eventually, hopefully, they'll get it. But there are things like, we talked about empathy. We talked about, am I the asshole? We talked about micromanagement and manipulation. The few things we have not talked about is things like steals credit, which I think actually we did. I apologize. We did talk about steal credit. Yep. And then, but two things: blame shifting and favoritism.
Ooh,
Okay.
blame shifting. I love
I hate
that
the
one.
blame.
Shifting.
Listen,
Oh,
listen. The blame shifters get throw punches because, like, Jesus, just own it. Everyone knows you messed it up. Everybody knows it's you, and you're over here talking about, well, accounting never gave me those numbers. Like, no, you had the numbers. You just didn't know what those numbers meant.
Can we
And you
can we
put
use
it on
the
a
proper
spreadsheet.
term? Let's use the proper term. Gaslighting.
Exactly. That's exact.
They
Blame shifters or
gaslight
gaslighters.
everybody around them.
Yep. Yep.
Blame shifting definitely goes into gaslighting, because then the person who's pointing the blame or saying, well, I sent that here, and then that person's going, did they? Did they?
Right.
And so they're questioning their own memory, questioning their own thoughts. Like, did and that pours into gaslight, really pouring gas onto a fire in its own little way. But I think definitely, I used to have this leader that told me that I was painstakingly honest. And I realized after my dumb teenage years that it was just so much more relieving to tell the truth. I felt good because I wasn't lying. I didn't keep up with all these little things that I said over here, here, and here. It became so much easier. So I say all that to say that it's good to be honest on what you're saying. Don't shift the blame. If the blame is someone else's, truly someone else's, then you can always direct in a professional way. Hey, oh yeah, let me see if Kenny sent those to me.
Oh no! I got receipts. I got receipts, Dr. Green. Don't. And that's one thing we've said, right? Is if you're gonna do that, better be prepared for the smoke and the heat that comes right after that, because there is no way you're gonna say, "Oh, I sent it to the llama." No, you didn't send it to me. Let me show you what you did. But I do it in a very professional way. But
yeah.
But yeah, no, it's one of those things where,
And if you have trouble like finding the right words, like the llama is really, really good at being professional and tactful and being politically correct in calling it out and correcting it. Trust me, I know.
you're exposing my secrets. You're exposing the secret.
I think a cool trick also for those entry level HR folks, right, that are still getting comfortable with, how do I tell my boss, or how do I call out my boss that I did do that, or that intimidator or that toxic leader? AI, guys, is your friend. Chat GPT will give you the right communication on how to phrase something where it makes it politically correct for you. So don't be afraid to chat GPT it if you're still growing in that communication realm. So
yeah, just be cautious though, because I had a situation where someone sent an email that came from Chat GPT, and I was like,
the two lines, the double lines will always get you.
My
or
response,
is it the I hope I hope this message seems you well.
Finds you well.
Finds you well.
Finds you well.
Well, no, finds you well.
And best regards.
My response is Chat GPT is really good at telling you how to say things. It just doesn't quite knowing where your butt sits. So in that email, I had to let this individual know, if you would have been a director, that would have been fine. But you're not a director. So that's not okay.
Well, no, you're right. And also don't just Chat GPT it and copy and paste it just exactly as that. You still gotta proofread it, guys.
Yes.
Like
your words.
I guess I'm assuming that you know that that you have common sense, that you would proofread to fit
Yeah.
the situation well for
If they
you.
know that you can't spell, don't put expeditiously in there. They
Oh
know you
my
didn't write
God.
that. They know you didn't write that.
Or
He loves
what do
that
you
word.
mean? I'm feeling supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. I shouldn't write that if I'm a bad speller.
I'm like,
Listen.
well, not just that, but like you could be a bad speller and still use it, but like know your audience because they're gonna look at that
No,
and they're gonna
absolutely.
be
Your
like,
audience
like,
should know you. And if they
Well-
know that you suck at spelling, please don't spell that anti-disestablishmentarianism in your freaking email and then expect everybody to go, wow, he's
What?
smart, but he just misspelled the word fluffy 5 minutes ago. What's up with this?
So pro tip, right? Said with love. Honestly, what Irma the HR lady said about ChatGPT is spot on. But I will tell you this: I am the self-proclaimed master of the prompts.
He is.
So
He
you
is.
have to.
Yes.
You
hail.
have
All hail the
to.
big
Yes. Yes.
Listen, you have to tell ChatGPT the variables.
Yes.
Who are you speaking to?
Yes.
Who is this going to be addressed to? At what reading level do you want it to be read at or written at? Because honestly, yes, ChatGPT will give you the internet's version of that question. So if you say, please write me an email on how to respond to the latest change in government policy XYZ, fine. It's going to give you everything you need from a records dump perspective. But you have to say things like, I am presenting to a mid-level manager who has 10 employees that report to them. Can you give me a 5th grade version of what this change in the policy is going
can you
to
put
be?
in there? Can you add that he's a narcissist? And will account for
Yeah,
that?
no, yeah, you can honestly put but it takes time to sort of think about who your audience is, put it, and then when you do get it, yes, massage it, make sure it makes sense and it's titled appropriately. Because there's nothing worse than saying insert name here in the body of your email, and you forget to edit that out. So
Hey, true story. I had a true story with that. I thought I was doing a good thing by helping somebody give them a script for a board meeting. I gave them a script used because they had never facilitated a board meeting before and they were completely lost. So I thought I was being a cool team member. I did a script with Chat GPT and the person literally was reading insert name here or ask the board members to stand up. Like, no, you don't read the parentheses.
Sounds like the last podcast that we had where someone
Right,
just
was
read
it-
the word like they weren't supposed
That
to.
was
was
not that was not the last podcast. It was like
Chuckles?
forward backwards, and they're picking on me, Irma, because Dr. Green likes to script out our lives. I was reading the script and I was being facetious in reading the prompt of what we should be
I
doing.
can see you doing that. I can see you doing that.
They thought I was serious. They thought, oh, he's actually reading it. I was like,
Yeah.
I was being facetious. I was joking. Like,
what is it? Chuckling? That's what it said. But he is chuckling.
It said chuckling, and I read the script and I said chuckling.
I feel like this is one of those other traits of a leader, like inconsistent behavior or even poor emotional regulation when you just read it because you're being a little tacky. No, I'm just kidding.
But I'm like that at work. I'll be reading something.
He will be.
And
He
I'll
will.
pause and I'll go, this is where we're supposed to laugh. LOL.
Yeah.
But hey, the first thing about it though is he did not say
yeah, he didn't say any of that.
LOL. He just kept going, and we're all like, "Wait, whoa, back it up, hold up."
No,
what?
I think I couldn't audibly. You can hear me breathing. I'm like, I couldn't hold it in because he said chuckling, and I was reading. And I go, he's not supposed to say that, and I couldn't hold it in. Oh my god,
it happens.
Read the room, guys.
Read the room.
Yeah. Oh, whatever. So the last two that I do want to go over is authoritarian, which I think we've kind of hit on that, but someone who thinks they are like, and you have some CEOs who are like that. CEOs even have people to answer to, aka the IRS, aka the
AKA
federal government,
AKA the board of
the
directors,
board of
AKA
oh,
the chairman of the board. Yep.
Yes, and they are not the end all be all do all. They still have to answer to someone. So no matter who you are, no matter what you do, you still answer to someone. Like the president answers to the people. Like there's someone who answers to someone. You're not free from that. And so I think we have some leaders who are like that. And the way to, what would you say, Big Llama, is kiss their ass a little bit? Schmooze?
Stroke their ego. Stroke
Their ego. That's it. Thank you. Stroke that ego and bring them to the peg and with all love and respect.
Yes.
Like you said earlier, which is send that tactful, strategic email that basically has them think and brings them down back to earth to where they treat people like humans. And then the last one is people don't think about this as a toxic trait, but favoritism. Now, I don't mean, I like Jake from HR because he brought me lunch one time. So now, we're forever going to be friends. And that's not what I mean. Favoritism to a point of it's volatile. You were overbearingly and way above and beyond showing favoritism, beyond shadow of a doubt.
One of the traits that when there's favoritism with a toxic leader is public shaming in meetings.
Ooh.
Right away, you pick up who's the golden child, right? Who can do no wrong because there's shaming in meetings for the ones that are going to be in the doghouse, and then there's that praise in meetings for the golden child, and right away when a leader is doing that, that's a toxic behavior, because what they're doing is not only are they creating that dissension in the team, but it's also pretty much creating the alliances that person wants there to be, instead of motivating the team to work together and stuff. So, and that's also a way of them thinking that they have power and control, because they're doing it in a public setting. So they'll make you think that if I'm willing to say this in a public format with so-called witnesses, imagine what I can do behind closed doors. That is one of the biggest, most obvious traits that you see from a toxic leader. So
I agree.
Just saying.
Moral of the story is when you're told to take a selfie, do it right then and there. Don't wait.
Stop.
Oh yes, here we go. But you know what? That's
a great example, though.
It's a great example, and the end result of that was an 11-cent raise. So I'm so proud that you did that extra work.
He's double number one. Double number one.
But so again, yes, but I think the reason I kept taking my hat off and covering my eyes is that I feel like Irma was in that meeting, that because she described it to the T, which was the public shaming of the rest of the group for not doing a simple task, and the praise of the favorite son, which was me.
Prodigal son returns.
Right, but it's exactly what you just described, which was the entire team was taking a lashing for not doing the thing that I did. And honestly, it made me feel way uncomfortable, but at the same time, I had no idea what I did was wrong. I was like,
yeah. I feel this is me when that public shaming is happening. You know how that commercial that they put up a little sign for depression and it's a smiley face. Well, this is my professional when I'm getting shamed. I'll do this. This is my face. Hide behind what I'm doing.
Irma, we have no hatred toward the big llama. He could not help
No,
having
we
as
love
much.
him.
He couldn't help having as much free time as he had versus everyone else.
That's true. I mean, his people were like, if you don't see this, he just held up a piece of paper with a happy face on it.
It looked like Big
Yeah.
Lynch.
Telling you.
Looked pretty bad. The deep, dark, soulless eyes. But in this case, I want to what's that word? Piggyback off of what Irma said, which is if you have a leader and you want to figure out if they are a toxic leader, public shaming is one of the biggest ones, no matter who it is, because leaders should never, ever, ever, no matter what level you are on, publicly ridicule someone. That is a absolute no-no. And so if you do this in HR, please get out of my profession because I don't need you here with your bad juju. But that's not the way we handle things. Once again, we talk with empathy. We think about, am I being the asshole or am I being manipulative? All these things. Make sure you do it privately. All that stuff should be done privately so that one, it seems more one-on-one, a little bit more intimate, and the message can get across a lot better. Rather than you have people like me and Jake sitting in that meeting going, wait, I didn't send the photo? Did you send the photo? Did you send the photo? And then while the person who's the golden child is going like this.
Again, let's reiterate what was happening. We were told at that meeting, banker's hours, and I literally was driving home in the middle of the day.
Love it. I love that. Love
was the
that for
greatest.
you.
I
was
love,
the
yes,
greatest.
I love that for you.
I love it. I love it.
So as we draw this part to a close, I want to go what Big Llama always says. Let's go around the horn and give your pieces of advice, whether it is your own personal advice, experiences, or no, just leave the psychological stuff to me.
Yeah.
But please, Irma, the HR lady, please give us some of your wisdom and advice that you would give to any HR professional or person dealing with any toxic traits of a leader.
I guess my unsolicited advice for the topic today, which is a toxic leader, is if that leader makes you rehearse casual conversations in your head before you approach them to want to talk to them, that's not a leader. Recognize that you're on survival mode at that point. And so I think once you understand that, uh, I think you'll be able to pivot and really think through with some of the advice that we gave as far as being creative and reaching out for help, and using the tools and resources that a company gives you to be able to manage through some of those types of situations. But I think the best advice is never stop networking with folks that are going through the same situation. And then also, I think we mentioned of several leadership books. For me, that was one of the best learnings that I ever got. So I think that's where that would be my unsolicited advice.
Thank you. We appreciate your unsolicited advice. I'm glad you used that word because it's my favorite, unsolicited advice. Whether you like it or not, you're getting it. So, Jake from HR, give us some of your words of wisdom and unsolicited advice. Is he frozen? I think he's frozen. It looks like he's looking like he's about to grab a doobie. I'm just kidding. Y'all don't do that. It's bad for you. Please don't do that. Drugs are bad.
Just say no.
Just say no.
Unless your state legalizes it, then you can
Oh.
participate within the
Or-
rules of your company.
Or you're going
Oh.
on, or you're going to a rave.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, at
love
50,
it.
at 50 years old.
Look, if you're doing that at 50, bless you, because you are killing it more than I would. So until Jake from HR gets back, the big llama, tell us, give us some of your unsolicited advice and wisdom.
So I would say again, let's work towards that environment where we can be honest with each other. I think if you're trying to build the foundation of an HR department and you're trying to impact, right? If you're new in a role or if you're new to HR and you're trying to impact, start with a good firm base of being upfront, honest, or at least walking that line appropriately. There's nothing worse than to sort of come into a new organization or into a new job and then you just playing the game with everybody else, right? You have to learn the game. You have to understand where the
Yep.
dynamics are, but definitely hold yourself to a higher standard and actually walk the talk. Like be that person who is going to be upfront, honest. It's served me well in my second half of my career is that I've been able to have honest conversations with folks, be a little bit more direct in my delivery of things. And I think that would be the advice to deal with toxic leaders is one, don't match the energy. Don't ever match their energy. You're going to lose. But there are things you can do on the back end behind the scenes that will create that trust environment in you and you'll have more firm footing. So that would be my advice. And then if you'd like to sometimes go the petty route, we can have a separate conversation as I can be your chief petty officer.
Throat punch.
But or no, throw punches are actually mentally a thing, not physically. So when I say something needs to be throat punched, it's really a mental exercise of punching something in the throat. But anyway, be that person that you would want to work with. Be the person that if you're a leader, think about how you're doing it, and then would you want to work for yourself? And that's that self-assessment that I did. I would not want to work for myself as a youth. And it's made me a better leader moving forward, and it's made me a better HR professional just to be able to have an honest conversation with myself to say, you didn't do that really well, and here's how you can do it a little bit better.
Thank you, Big Llama. Before we shift to Jake, I want to make sure that when we're done with Jake, we want to talk about merch. So if you could pull that up behind you and we could talk about our merch, that'd be fantastic. So Jake from HR, you were alive. You're back with us. Tell me, give us your unsolicited advice or wisdom that you could contribute to the podcast.
Well, we won't do death by PowerPoint, so I won't repeat what y'all said. So my solicited advice from Dr. Green, honestly, when faced with a toxic leader, the only thing I would urge is find someone like the four friends just trying to figure out HR, the Irmas of the world, someone who has knowledge and experience in the people side of the industry, and just ask them what they would say or do in situations like this, because obviously they've dealt with many scenarios in the past that are similar, if not the same. So who best to give you not specific step-by-step directions, but guidance on a few different routes that you could take? Because like any good puzzle that you're trying to do for the first time, it's going to take you longer, or you're going to end up doing it wrong. And why make life harder? Don't reinvent the wheel.
Perfect. Thank you, Jake. Back to the big llama. Tell us about our merch.
So again, For those of you who have not voted for your favorite member of the Just for Friends trying to figure out HR podcast, you know how you vote is you buy one of the hoodies that represents them. This is the Jake from HR hoodie. It says that he loves HR, but we all know that the Big Llama is your favorite. But
You're number one.
I am number one. The reason we priced, go to the link on the descriptions. We have more than this. We have hoodies, we have t-shirts. Go check out the merch store because we need to pay the bills.
That's right. Because we got the skills. We just need you to give us the money to pay the bills.
Right.
So
this is like low cost consulting. I can tell you that. So
Everyone gets one free session.
yes, one. And speaking of sessions, I'll wrap my part up and tell y'all that you do know your favorite is Dr. Green, the Green Machine.
Yeah.
Please don't forget, even if you don't have the health insurance plan, 99% of the time, you still have I don't know why I just slipped my head, the Employee Assistance Program, the EAP.
EAP.
I was just about to lose my mind. But the EAP is there for every employee, regardless of whether you have the health insurance or not. It's there for the company. So it's also not just for the company, it's there for you. So a lot of them give out 5, 6, 7, 3, whatever it is, the amount the company pays for, free sessions of mental health programs. So please feel free, go use those programs. They're there for a reason, especially when you have the boss that seems like is never going to stop, never going to go away. You might as well get some true psychology or psychiatry to be able to get you through those things so that you can move forward. And as always, if it's illegal, don't do it. And as my closing remark, Big Llama, you are number one, buddy. Number one.
I'm number one unless you eat tomatoes on the side. Then I hate you. Hey, you gotta dive in the archives. You know who this guy is.
That's right. Okay, Jake from HR, do you want to wrap us up with your famous words of wisdom?
Absolutely. We all share with you today with much love. We bring this podcast to a close until we call you into the office next time. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Mama said, hey.
Well, that's another episode of the 4 Friends Trying to Figure Out HR. We didn't solve anything, but hey, at least we tried.
And by tried, we mean we laughed, we overshared, and we probably violated some HR guidelines ourselves.
But remember, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Don't take our advice. Seriously, don't.
And if your HR manager asks, you've never heard of us or this podcast.